All right, got another fake rock wall for a lizard cage. It's something a little bit different in the paint job, at least. Looks a little funky. It's got some different colors there. Got some brown, gray, and a little bit of white. But basically a flat slate rock looking fake rock wall. Got some ledges there, so you can see how much the certain areas of the rock jut out. Even has a little hide. So this is meant for a 10-gallon, but obviously you could take this idea and scale it up to a much bigger cage. So let's get started. You want to wear one of these dust masks, help protect you from the particles. And I am doing this in front of a open window. So I've got adequate ventilation because I'm using a couple of tools from the hot wire foam factory. So these are a couple of hot wires, one a straight knife and another that is flexible. Measuring out the back piece for the cage. And I'm going to measure it out so that it is a little bit smaller, a little bit too small for the back. So you want it where it doesn't fit perfectly and is leaning towards too small. See how it basically has a little bit of leeway there, almost like a ½ inch on each side. And I do this because I know it's going to end up growing when you apply the mortar. Here what I've got is a leftover piece, I think, from the autumn waterfall. And got the hot wire there and really showing, the ability that you can really create some interesting organic looking rock-like shapes. And there's the finished product of that little piece, so I'll glue that on later. So tracing around, drawing out, rather, another piece. This was supposed to be the that main ledge, and I ended up creating a slightly smaller version of that to be that main ledge that juts out the furthest, like 3.5, 4 inches. So that is going to, I'm trying to figure out where to put that at this point, and cut out a couple of basic rectangles to make the hide. So it's going to look this basic in the beginning, and I'll cover that up with other pieces to sort of camouflage how basic it looks. But using Loctite's Power Grab to glue together the polystyrene. You'll want to watch the materials list video, give you a better idea of the stuff I'm using for these projects. So I'm going to glue this sort of off-center to the left, doesn't really matter. I'm not going to glue it all the way over to the left or the right because I know I'm going to have to be able to fit this back in the cage, and it's a top-loading tank, and that would probably obstruct, the ability to fit it back in the cage. So again, trying to figure out where that main ledge that juts out the most. Sometimes what I'll do is use a magic marker to give me an idea as to where I want it. But with that, it was exactly there. Didn't change my mind, and went ahead and glued it into place. So again, fitting it back into the cage here, you want to make sure you do that from time to time so you're not wasting your time, realizing that you're going to have to make it smaller to be able to fit it back in the cage. So using the hot wire to try to do more sculpting, trying to make the rock look a little bit more realistic. So really it's just a series of flat, long pieces to create this sort of slate rock background. So gluing in that other piece from earlier, some other pieces towards the bottom, and you want to make pieces that are different from each other. Here I'm going to try to put in a smaller piece just to break it up, make it look more natural. But I've got pieces where that main platform is coming out a good, 3.5, 4 inches. And then right below it, you've got something there, but it's only coming out maybe a 1/2 inch, followed by another piece that's coming out maybe 2 inches, just to vary the look. You can really see it there with the heavier lighting. Fitting it back into the cage, making sure that it's still going to be able to fit. Gluing together or on more pieces, and trying to cover up or camouflage that hide so it doesn't look as basic, with the 2 rectangles. And just gluing on more pieces to make it look like the I guess the rest of the project, so that it blends in when you're looking at it head on. That's how it's looking underneath the hide. So I'm going to continue to glue more of these elongated rectangles. And of course, you can do this entire project with a knife. The hot wire just makes it easier. It's a lot less of a mess with the wire. But I used to use a knife exclusively. I didn't have a hot wire at one point. So you really could do it. It's just, again, the mess is ridiculous with a knife. There you see the final product of what it's looking like before I add the mortar. So you can see all the different variations of how much certain pieces jut out as opposed to others. Fit it back in the cage, make sure it'll fit. And then it's off to adding the mortar. And what I'm adding here is a product called foam coat. And it was it's another product from the hot wire foam factory. So it's very much like grout, although this stuff was specifically designed for foam. So it doesn't have the cracking or the flaking off that you might get with the non-sanded or sanded grout that I've used in the past. And it comes with instructions to be able to mix it with a certain amount of water, certain amount of foam coat. And I usually use a little bit more water than what they say to be able to have it be thin enough to work its way in all those cracks and crevices that are inevitable with these projects. So as with all of the projects, you'll want to apply at least 2 layers. If you're making this for like maybe a bigger cage, so the structure is bigger, and you're making it for a bearded dragon, who are, they're a lot stronger than a gecko, you'll want to probably use at least 3 layers just to make it stronger. The more layers you add, obviously the stronger it'll be. Of course, you want to apply it to the back as well. And here we have the painting stage. Got a tinier water bottle than I'm used to using with the poor man's paint gun. And like you saw in the beginning, the color scheme is a little bit different. So I'm using sort of like a brown gray for like a base color, and mixing it, with water, acrylic paint and water. And with this layer, this didn't really work, but showing you can use a different color. You can barely tell there. Different color. You can have a whole series of water bottles, with different colors. And that's how you could just completely do the paint job. But I resorted to the brush here, using the dry brush technique, loading the brush and then getting rid of most of the paint. And going back up here, and whatever paint is left on the brush, a little bit will come off with the texture that the foam coat left behind. Looking a little weird here with that color, but I ended up using so many colors, so many different layers, that you don't end up seeing that in the final product, using a sort of light beige at the top there. So, and you can see that the original layer, that sort of brown, gray, green layer, is coming through. You're not covering up all of the first layer, and I won't do that for really any layer except for that initial. And hopefully with the additional layers, create this look that looks like more of a weathered, worn rock look. And have an old brush here that has seen better days, where the bristles are splayed out there, sort of giving like a stipple effect. You can use that, using it here with like a dark brown. So going over that layer, so at this point that particular section has 3 layers on it. And going in here with sort of a dark gray to counteract that light gray that's already on there, doing the dry brush technique. As you can see, with the more layers you have, sometimes, not always, but the more complex and thus more realistic you can make your fake rock look. So again, with that brush, using sort of that stipple technique, just taking like a straight white acrylic paint and creating the look of maybe like bleached rock. So just really trying to do a different paint job with this one, and have like a really dark brown that I'm trying to stipple on top of that white layer. And I did a lot of this too, where I'm creating fake cracks in fake rock, which can really enhance the look of the entire piece, to have more, I guess, suggestions of cracks in the rock. Just gives it a lot more depth. Fill in those crevices with a very dark gray, or if not black. And like what I'm doing here, just kind of doing old school detail, where you get a really tiny brush and using a very light, if not white color, and then maybe going back in with the stipple brush, and maybe that brush, I'm pretty sure it was, the color was fading, maybe it was watered down, so it's not going to come through as strong, just to give variations in this technique of adding color. So there you have the finished painted stage to this project. And what I'm going to do now is seal it with a non-toxic sealant. Again, you want to refer to the materials list video that's on the channel, and for all of these different materials, where to get them. And what I'm going to do here is apply a really good layer. You'll want to apply a good 5 layers. Now, this is not something that is supposed to be put into, say, a fish tank. If you're wanting to do that, you would really need to apply a really good layer of aquarium grade silicone. But this is really just for a dry tank, but the type of sealant is such that it is water repellent. I don't know that it is truly water, or I guess 100% water resistant. What I'm doing here is, after that's dried, I'm with the sealant applying a little bit of sealant, and then sprinkling colored non-toxic sand on some of these areas. So like brown sand here, a little bit of gray sand, a little bit of white and black. Counteracts the shininess. It strengthens the structure, so you could apply layers of sealant and then sand and then repeat, and really build up a strong surface. Also, it obviously gives traction for a pet. So there you have the finished product. putting it back in the cage. Luckily it fit. And just a slightly different paint job than what I usually do. You could always just do a really simplistic dark gray with light gray highlights, or the opposite of that, be a lot easier, like what I've done in the past. But thanks for watching.